Peace, and Black Power family. Welcome to another episode of Nile Video, broadcasting live here on YouTube. We have the honor and privilege of having Black by African demand, Chief Priest of Henensu tribe, our Chief Priest, founder, organizer, and leader. I speak of none other than our Chief Priest Aankhu Menu. Definitely honor and privilege to have him on today with the family, discussing the greatest topic on the planet, which is teaching Nile Valley cultural magic, with an emphasis on magic. So definitely honor and privilege to have you on. Nisu, Hotel Pool, Uncle Jacinel.
Hotel Pool, Uncle Jacinel, peace, life, prosperity, and health. Thanks for extending the invitation. It's always an honor and a privilege to be on this platform, do the Knowledge Radio, with my brother, Knowledge Born a lot. So, I'm ready to get into this thing. I say, see how much magic I'll be able to drop on air, but we'll talk about it.
Do I? I know we want to start off in the right order, so I would definitely turn the platform over to Nisu to start things off in the proper order.
Okay. So, before we go any further, we want to first and foremost, salute, rank, pay homage to our divine ancestry, our illustrious lineage. So I want to say, Necharatin Yita Amut Nete, salutations of power, Father, Mother Nete, Kepa Ruim, Nunet, who manifests, so comes forth as Nunet. Keparuim Ra and Rayet, who manifests and comes forth as Ra and Rayet. Keparuim Ishu Nut, who manifests as Ishu Nut. Keparuim Hiwataru, who manifests as Heru. Keparuim Pesaju Netaru Nabu, who manifests as all the divine forces of nature. Keparuim Nut Gab, who manifests as Nut and Gab. Keparuim Oser Heruwa Tutesh, Oset, Nephet, Aankhu, Herusa, Oset, Sa, Oser, Tahuti, and Subek, who manifests as Nut and Geb, Oser, Heruwa, also called Behudet, Sutesh, Oset, Nephet, Heru, the son of Oser and Oset, Aankhu, Tahuti, Subek, and all of the divine forces of nature, the great company of forces, Peseju Netaru Oat, Peseju Netaru Nejet, the great forces and the minor forces. We salute and pay homage to them as well. Netaratin Yatam, Neter Keparuim, Oser Kinti Aminti you, Jerti you, Imu Hat, Imu Batup you, O, Shepsu Yaku, Hesi you. Salutations of power, Father, Mother, Nater, who manifests as Oser, foremost chief amongst the Westerners, the first ancestor, the legendary ones, the ancient ones, those of yore, those from before, those at the head, the venerable ones, the honorable ones, the praised ones, the effective ones. We salute and pay homage to our ancestors. And the Charatin, Damed, and I salute and pay homage to Whoa, all that are tuning in, all of us, the collective, as expressions, emanations, incarnations in the walking embodiment and personifications of the divine Neter ourselves. So, that said, Dwight Neter, let's, ready to get this thing rocking.
Aankhu. I wanted to take this opportunity to have a sit down with you in regards to some of the teaching modalities to my people in regards to introducing this living culture to our people, either African people on the continent or African people in the diaspora, particularly within the realms of our families. Oftentimes, we know of a thing within our families based off of it being passed down from generation to generation. So, traditionally, we come into the things that we know in the way that we go based on what we found our parents and grandparents doing. So, with this resurgence of the African mind taking place, something that I wanted to be able to draw the family's attention to is the proper implementation process needed to reacclimate the family towards our living traditions. So, if we could, take some time and, hear some of we could start with some of your observations first, what you've seen in your travels in regards to what are some of the things that you learned about crafting your approach towards teaching Nile Valley culture to African people.
Okay, two. Okay, so just beginning, with my personal travels, some of, we have to talk about some of the earliest, institutions or organizations that, that were teaching Nile Valley culture. You got, some of the, organizations such as Sarasset Society, International. You got, I want to say, Dr. Asar Hapi. He was one of the first to bring quote unquote Kemetic yoga or Egyptian yoga to, he created that. Let's put it that way. I'm not gonna say he brought it, but he coined that in the 60s. Sarasset started in like the 70s, like 1970, and the origins around those, of course, smoke and mirrors, but as with most people that are attracted to Nile Valley culture and Kemet, which is one of the things that a lot of our people, when we first start to wake up, Kemet is one of the first things that we're that we get into in this day and time. If we're talking back in the 60s, back in the 50s, in the 60s, in the 70s, and even in the the 80s to early 90s, you may have been dealing more so with Islam, Africans, African Islam within the diaspora, I should say, or the Islam that came from African people in the diaspora, such as the Nation of, Nation of Islam, Nation of Gods and Nerds, Moorish Science Temple, etc., so on. So I went through that evolution as well. Went through all of those schools, and went into Kemet, studying the the work of folk like Dr. Ashraf Kwesi, okay, and his wife Marira Kwesi, studying the work of Yosef Ben Yakanan, great ancestor, okay, and this is something that for me, I really went in terms of just a general study of Africa. I studied Pan-African studies in school, so this is something that I really took very seriously until I couldn't take it no more in that particular in the institutionalized way in which it was being taught. But all that being said, when it comes to Kemet or Nile Valley culture in particular, what it was that I come into for the most part was one or two things. It was either hyper intellectualized and completely devoid of spirituality, okay, or it was being interpreted from the perspective of from the periphery, I should say. It's being interpreted and approached from the outer periphery of, let's say, outer Kemet, extra Kemet. The reconstruction of Nile Valley culture had been approached through Eastern mysticism, through Western occultism, through Kabbalah, okay, through yoga, okay, etc. so on, and these are, I say the reason for it is what some today in the community refer to as lookership. So we see certain symbols and things that resemble, we see things in Kemet, symbols that resemble symbols in other cultures, okay, and because they look alike or resemble one another, there was a habit of saying these are the same. And there's a term for it called parallelomania, okay, where automatically we take parallels to speak to some type of relationship that is genetic, okay, and that's not necessarily the case, but that's what we got in most instances with the way that Nile Valley culture was being presented. And I even went into some of those schools as well, you know what I mean, and went through the initiations and became priest and all of that. But like I say, it was a for me, through my without getting too deep into like the experiences that I was having that led me to take the approach that I'm taking, as far as like the specific details. Let's just say that the ancestors led me to look for Kemet within Kemet. That we should let the ancestors speak for themselves, and that no one can tell you more or better about Nile Valley culture than the people of the Nile Valley. And when we take the disposition, which is very arrogant, that we know better than the people that actually created and lived the culture that we are, alleging to pick up and practice and learn, that we so arrogantly, say that, we know we got it right, even though we aren't even engaging the writings that they left behind. We know what these things mean, even though we cannot read the language. That's that right there. That right there was not acceptable. And I was being led away from, those approaches, which, I say, like I said, I went into those schools and I actually taught, okay? And, the ancestors led me to completely put it down and start from scratch. Like, learn the language. I had heard it, years before, but I didn't quite understand what was being said, and you know, thought it was like, okay, you know, you got all these great teachers out here that are teaching the culture. You know, what am I going to say, you know, that they haven't already said? What am I going to present that they haven't already presented? And, you know, I was told maybe you should deal more with the language. And I'm, you know, I'm like, okay, maybe I should take their lofty teachings and, you know, articulate it in a way to where it's digestible and the people should understand it more. Because, you know, one of the books from one of the teachers, you know, actually, when you met, like, this book was considered the book on Nile Valley culture. Okay. You know, it's considered the book. It was, how I say, in my you know, I had a class, Black Political Thought, okay, at the University of Louisville. And, you know, one of the teachers actually had, you know, this book on the curriculum as required reading. But the book, it presents a reconstruction of Nile Valley culture and spiritual tradition using India, Southern China, the Kabbalah, okay, and you know, Western occultism, etc., so on, you know, and it's more of that stuff and very little voodoo, very little you know, Yoruba, very little Dogon, and you know, very little of the traditions from interior Africa. Okay. And this is you know, this once again is, you know, it was unacceptable. So, you know, this is something that in looking to, you know, bring forth the work of the ancestors in reconstructing the culture and the tradition. And, you know, a lot of the things that you know, I had, you know, come to actually build my life around, I had to let it all go. And how you say, I'm, you know, man with, you know, I say had a wife, you know, have a wife, you know, wives, you know, at the time I was married already, and, you know, had a child, and we had built our life around this and put it down, you know. And, you know, crazy thing is, you know, I had the name Benu before, you know, during this time I had already, you know, received this name Benu. And, you know, that's, you know, it's supposed to be the prototype of or the archetype of where they get the phoenix from. And, you know, it's a bird that consumes itself in flames, but rises again, renewed from its own ashes. And I've done that several times throughout my life with every single school of thought that I've been in until we reach the place where we say, okay, now we really, you know, we burnt away all of the superfluous stuff, all of the fluff. We burnt away all of the foreign elements, things that don't belong in this culture and in this tradition. And you know, now we can really deal. Let's deal first and foremost primarily with what the ancestors laid down. You know, it had been said that the teachings, like the words of power, like we have to reconstruct from India and from China and from the Jew and all of these things, because the science, the words of power have been lost from Kemet, and we have to go where the teachings went, as though the teachings went to India, went to China, went to the Jew, and went to you know, to Europe and Western occultism, etc., so on, and not to interior Africa. Okay. And you know, this is something that my work, okay, and the work of Henensu seeks to correct, you know, the correct approach to studying first and foremost, before we can even talk about teaching. The correct approach to studying Kemet is from within Kemet itself. And in order to do that properly, you have to learn the language. So me out there teaching, not knowing the language, I had to stop teaching, sit my ass down, and learn the language. You know what I mean? And then after that, I had to go. I had to travel. I had to do intense travel through the actual text that our ancestors laid down. Intense and extensive traveling and research through the actual words and literature of our ancestors. Okay? You know, exhaustive. And then actually go to Kemet and see it and study it and search for it. Okay? And also connect with the Africans that are still there, that are holding on to the culture, even though it's taken on a camouflage form. Connect with the Africans that are still there, that are still practicing the culture, okay, to assist in the work. That's what I had to do. And, you know, I couldn't be worried about contradicting my previous work, which I did. I couldn't be worried about you know, contradicting myself to my previous students, which I did. Okay? I couldn't worry, you see, about, you know, well, if you got it wrong, then, you know, what makes us think that you got it right? I couldn't worry about none of that. You know what I mean? It's a thing about humility, integrity, and making sure that we get it right. What did the ancestors say? They are the ones best qualified to speak for themselves, okay? And they are the ones best qualified to teach the tradition. So in order for them to do that, we have to actually engage their texts, engage their works. You know what I mean? So what I found is that it wasn't true. The idea that, you know, we had to look to the East or look to Europe, okay, or look to, you know, the Kabbalah, okay, for the culture, for the rituals, for the quote unquote words of power and invocations, right, was false. Wasn't true. Am I calling the people that teach that a liar? Not necessarily, you know. I'd like to extend and give them the benefit of the doubt that they got started in a time where they just didn't know, or you know, whatever the case may be. But, you know, be that as it may, I found that wasn't accurate. Okay, whatever the case may be, you know, the problem is because they were introduced, okay, to spirituality via Western occultism, okay, and then they, how you say, you know, coming up in a time where Black nationalism is on the rise, okay, you can't bring Western occultism to African people here, right? Without how you say, you know, without putting some black on it. Okay? You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? You know, you can't be around here talking, you know, you got a group over here talking about the black man is God, and you over here talking about Aleister Crowley 777. You know, you can't be over here. You got a group talking about, the black man is God and black power, but you over here talking about the Golden Dawn and the Rosicrucian, you know, order and this, that, and the third. You can't. You know what I mean? And it's crazy because, you know, a lot of the things that we see today in terms of people that are teaching Kemet is still coming from that approach. This trying to make everything around, trying to turn this tradition into some universal humanist stuff. And they need to cut it out. You know what I mean? They need to cut it out. So this is the thing. The issue is because of the introduction to spiritual science through Western and Eastern occultism. Okay, we were, right? And by we, I'm talking about those that were teaching back in the back in those days, back in the 60s and 70s, that are still going on and doing the same things. They were looking for words of power, invocations, and rituals in Kemet that were identical to what it was that they were learning in these Eastern and Western occult societies. That's the problem. So if you're looking for, quote unquote mantras, and you're familiar with Sanskrit, and the 50 matricas of Sanskrit, and the seed mantra, the Sanskrit alphabet as a seed mantras, etc., so on and all of that stuff, right? If you're familiar with that, and then you're looking for the same exact thing in Kemet, right? That's what mantras or words of power to be, and that's what you're looking for over here, and you don't find it. Then you take the assumption either that it's been lost and it's over here now, or you say, oh, you created, you make it up, and there's a little bit of that took place as well. Okay, so at the end of the day, I said, no, wait a minute. This, I was reading a book called, Fundamentals of the Yoruba Religion by Chief Fama, and, in the books, not that big of a book, probably about that thick, but in the book, she laid out a lot of the fundamentals. She had what's called Oriki, or the names of, or epithets, titles, and attributes of the forces, right? In there, and hymns and prayers for all kinds of occasions. And you know what I mean? I'm looking at it and I'm like, yo, this is beautiful. This is dope. Where is this in Kemet? Right? Everything in that book was in the Yoruba language. And it just made sense. If I want to invoke Ogun, I'm not going to use the mantra of, let's say, trying to think of fire, Agni or whatever, Agni, okay, from the east. Not going to use the mantra of Agni to invoke Ogun. If I want to invoke Ogun, I call Ogun by name in the language that people in the culture that Ogun rose from. Right? If I want to invoke, Yemoja, I'm not going to use the mantra of Tara to do so. You see? So what it caused me to do after looking at that book, I went over to my shelf and I had these books on this shelf, way before I started teaching the tradition. And I picked up the so-called Book of the Dead, or Coming Forth by Day. I picked that up and I just read through the table of contents but this time with the blinders off. And immediately, pow, pow, pow. You know what I'm saying? Everything started to click. The invocation, the ancestral invocations, how to dedicate and activate a shrine, you know, erecting the shrine, the rituals, the sacrifices, the taboos, like, you know, it's there. It had been there the whole time, but we couldn't see it because we had these Chinese, East Indian, cracker, Jew glasses on that we were looking through, filtered through. You see? So, you know, all that's when I say, you know what? I gotta stop, start over, learn the language, and let the ancestors speak for themselves. Some of the things that I heard, you know, from some of the teachers, you know what I mean? It's like, yo, they really believe that they knew better than the ancestors. But, yo, this is my whole thing in a nutshell. Like, you know, you can't be so arrogant to think that you know better than, you know, the one of the greatest and most advanced civilizations that ever existed, and you over here, you know, ain't got a pot to piss in. Be humble. All right, and I leave that there right there for now.
I don't got no bombs over here. I just had to let it marinate for a second since I don't got no bombs on this platform right here. So, boom. So the initial journey on top of the journey, which led to the journey, and what's led to the journey that is now. Let me share this. Let me share this one of the ninth wonders of the world real quick with the family right here. This 666 page offering right here is proof of what Uncle said with letting the ancestors speak for themselves right here. This offering right here. That's the greatest and most satisfactory proof I could provide to the family. Joint's tripping right now. So the journey on top of the journey and the forsaking of the noise pollution around the resurgence of the African mind. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. This journey of the Africans and the diaspora, the sparks were, you know, how we found them, you know, and most of us undergoing those particular reference points led us to the Nile Valley, either via a book list or political science, you know, the study thereof of, you know, what was happening around us and how to respond to our environment appropriately. So either we were seeking to change our diet or change our mind in some kind of way, shape, or form, or we went around an approach of a militaristic type of manner, revolutionary manner, some form of reformation of our current construct. And this change caused a catalyst and brought us back to the Nile Valley. So this Nile Valley cultural magic has always been there and has always existed. And in your series, you eloquently illustrate how, despite what the external or the topical region of the area might appear to be, internally and foundationally, Nile Valley culture has not been changed. It's still alive and well. Just our access to it had been severed. So now with us,
yeah, and now go ahead, brother.
now you was about to that was alley oop off the backboard right there.
Well, I say, and I was just gonna say, and it's kin. You know what I mean? It is kin to greater context. It is kin to African traditions throughout the continent. Right. It fits within the greater context of African culture and spiritual traditions, okay, throughout the continent, and serves as a great ancestor to them, a unifying point. You know what I mean? It's a unifying point of African culture and traditions. You know what I mean? And there is this movement or this approach or this perspective to try and minimalize or try to minimalize or discount the importance of Kemet in this day and time. Okay, and trying to write it off as though it's dead, trying to write it off as though there are no longer African priests and priestesses in Kemet, in the Nile Valley, that are still practicing the tradition. You know what I mean? And trying to write it off as though instead we should turn our attention to other places in Africa. You know what I mean? And because those, are where our quote unquote direct ancestors came from in our last point of departure from the continent. You see? But when we understand the migrations that took place from the Nile Valley into West Africa, into Central Africa, into even East Africa and Southern Africa. Okay? And then we understand specifically the migrations that happened here, and then what happened to us once we got here, all of the intermingling of the various groups. To try and say that we should ignore Kemet when it's a unifying point for many groups, including the ones that we descend from, the multiple ones that we come from in our final point of departure once we got here, in the intermixing. You see? We should ignore it as though our genetic makeup is monolithic. Okay? It's monotonous. Makeup, we only consist of one group, one ethnic group. No. There's a reason why our people are drawn to Kemet today. There's a reason why Kemet calls to our people from the depths of their being. There's a reason for it. And it's a deep, deep genetic ancestral memory and call that is happening. And the reconstruction of this culture is inevitable. I say the resurgence of the culture is inevitable. It is the most viable culture and tradition, and the language, modality, is the most viable and conducive culture and language to facilitate the purpose of Pan-African nationalism, period. Period. You see? So, just wanted to add that in, I say there, it's something where, I did a Kool Kim radio broadcast a couple years ago called "Yo, Stop Hating on Kemet," and the hate is it was just coming from so many angles in so many directions. Like, goddamn, even the African traditionalists shooting at Kemet. You know what I mean? So, you know, we need to make it plain. Allow me to make it plain. Kemet is alive and well and here to stay and on the way up. And it has the hearts, minds, and imaginations of our people. You understand? You understand? And we're family. So there's no need to bang. There's no need to bang. All right, Heis, I'm off the soapbox for a second.
Yo, so this joint, there's a couple things I've been seeing recently. So now recently I have been seeing with this film that has just come out, Black Panther. Over $1 billion in the box office. I've seen a couple of things going on, and I know that you're going to approach that film this weekend, and hopefully we get a little snippet of that in the course of this conversation. A couple of things I've seen specifically to the point you just made in regards to Kemet, in regards to Nile Valley as a whole. I've seen the admixture approach as if there's not a singular path to, you know, to where Kemet culture is not concise enough or precise enough or clear enough that we have to add Western or Eastern admixtures together under the guise that we are all these things, this hidden colors approach that I call. You know, if you've seen the Hidden Colors films, they are very good conversation starters. It's a bunch of information that's out there. We the original everybody. But some people take that we original everybody as a justification to stir this pot up, you know, not in the gumbo type of sense where you put these ingredients together and the end goal is a beautiful meal, but it's just a bunch of shit you mix together that you don't want to let go. You see what I'm saying? You know, so when you start looking at approaches where, you know, the Westerners would take a thing like St. Patrick's Day and include all of the other bastardized things that they could put together as an acceptable form and put it out, you see, and call it a holiday. You know what I'm saying? Like, because we're all, you know, we don't, this admixture type of approach, you know, something beautiful, something sacred, something that is a true pillar in African traditional way of life, like ancestral veneration. You see something like this, and then you like, hey, you know, we put all of this other stuff together because we're all these people. Like, wait a minute. How do you take a sacred science and then you just dump everything? Like, you ain't season it with nothing. You just dump everything from the spice rack into the joint and say, hey, because we're all of these. We're everything. You see what I'm saying? So I seen that approach, and I seen another approach where it's a look at Kemet, but not an acknowledgement in the way that Kemet would acknowledge everybody in a loving manner. You see what I'm saying? It's just a look like, yeah, them too. like them too. Like them too. So, you know, it's superhero, supervillain, or just some shit in between, you know, in regards to how this approach is coming along with Nile Valley and Kemet tradition in particular. So can you address that right there?
You know, it's once again. And you know, even back, and this is kind of what got it started for me, I would say, you know, because I have, you know, learned, studied, and been trained in research methodology. Okay, in the in the quote unquote institutions, it's how I say, it's somewhat of a gift and a curse for most people, but for me it was a gift in that knowing when things are theoretical, knowing when things are for instance, knowing when things are even worth your damn attention and time. Like, you have something in African philosophy, and just in, I think, this is in philosophy in general, called determining whether something is or not even a proposition. Meaning, is it even worth putting on the table to examine? And the primary thing that is used to determine that is whether or not it's falsifiable or not. Okay, whether or not it's something that can be proven true or false. Okay, and in order for that to take place, you have to be able to observe it. You have to be able to actually engage it critically and follow the scheme systematically to come to an actual conclusion. Okay, that is not based on speculation. That is not based on, well, the absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence, and all this other foolishness. Okay, that's going on. It should be approached like any serious scientific study. And when you're dealing with these things, you have to deal with primary documentation. You have to deal with primary evidence that you're going to actually critically engage. And the further you get away from primary sources, okay, the more likely you are to begin dealing with fluff. It's just like the game they used to have everybody play, in elementary school, the telephone game. You sit in a circle and you go around, you say something in this person's ear and you go all the way around the circle. And by the time it gets back to the source of it, it's completely different from what you said. You know what I mean? That's the way that we should understand when someone is presenting information and they're not dealing with primary sources. Okay. And then, there are certain things that are just fanciful or certain things that are so either far-fetched or is something that's so out there that you can't prove it one way or the other, in favor of it or against it. And, in that case, it's not even worth your time. But people present these things such as the we are the original everything. Okay. If by that you mean that, we, I say, man or humanity ultimately stems from African people as the source, okay, their source, then that's correct. But, I say, if you're going to go around, like I remember a book, I'm not going, out of respect, I'm not going to, call the name. I'm not going to call the name of the book, but, there's a couple books like this actually, but you open up the book and every single thing in the book is black. Every single person is black. Hell, even mythological figures that never existed are black. I didn't made them historical when they're black. You know what I mean? It's like it's I get it for where what it's doing. Maybe the authors really believe that. But some things are not to be taken necessarily literal for instance, you know, when people say they refer to Osir as Lord of the Perfect Black in Kemet. Uh-oh. You know what I'm saying? When people say they refer to Osir as Lord of the Perfect Black, and they take that to mean his skin color. Okay? And you find Osir with green skin, and then you find Osir, you know, with black skin in terms of his depiction. And they take each of those to represent his actual skin color. You know, you got one person to say, you know, he's depicted green because at one point in time we were green. What? And then something happened in the atmosphere that, you know what I'm saying, that changed you know, the melanin from green to the brown that we're currently in, and this, that, and the third, right? You know, it's those types of things that are so out there it can't be proven one way or the other, but it's put forth to the community. It captures the imagination. It makes us feel so good, so powerful, but it literally retards us intellectually. Okay? And we take, you know, some take the same approach when it comes to engaging and dealing with and teaching Nile Valley culture and spiritual traditions. You know, want to connect Kemet, you know, and say that, you know, the Maduna Ter or Sanskrit came out of the Maduna Ter, and you know what I mean, and all of these other things, and you know that you cannot prove outside of this looks like this, outside of work that is completely speculative. There's no scientific studies, you understand? No actual academic studies that have gone through you know, serious you know, critical scrutiny and have employed actual methodology, proper research methodology. Okay, you know, you're going to get incorrect, inaccurate, or complete fanciful information. And you know, that's what we got going on. And you know, in which, you know, Kemet is seen either as a superhero or supervillain queen. You know, it depends on what people's agenda, you know, is at the end of the day. You know, a lot of these folk, they have agendas for what it is that they do. Most people got agendas, but most, you know, many of them, their agendas are self-serving. And, you know, instead of just dealing with the, you know, and mind you, I'm not one to romanticize Kemet at all. You know, we put everything on the scales. You know, so, you know, if there's something that, you know, let's say a quote unquote Hebrew wants to present, say, yo, you know, this took place in Kemet. And, you know, for instance, you know, I posted the sandal from it's Tutankhamun sandal from when I went over there, and it depicts the 9 bowls, okay, who are symbolic of the traditional enemies of Kemet on one hand, but then on the other hand they symbolize the on the other hand they symbolize the antithesis of the 9 Neteru, okay, of the cosmology of Benu, or the Peseju Neteru, okay, or, you know, forces of chaos, right? And the reason why it's depicted as the 9 bowls, the bowls shoot arrows. Arrows are associated with forces of chaos or disease that came from the outside, inside, and disrupt the order or ma'at within the nation. So, you know, it's a little bit deeper than most people realize. But in it, you know, you see somebody that you know, they have folk, you know, depicted on the sandal that resemble who scholars have presented to be identified with quote unquote Nubians. Which is let's say in certain instances, you have Taseti, which is a part of Kemet and has always been. Okay, you have them listed sometimes, but the list isn't even always consistent in terms of which nations are listed, and the list isn't even always 9. It's just called 9. Like you have the percentage, the term percentage or percentage 9 used for various companies or groups of forces from different locations. Okay, and regardless of the number, they are always referred to as 9 in most instances. Okay, in most instances, they're referred to as Peseju. I should say that term is used, Peseju, even when the number is not 9. Right, so it's something that people are approaching this thing in a crazy way. But the brother, the Hebrew brother that mentioned, he made it a point to say, yo, they are supposed to be like family or cousins or the same people, this, that, and the third, but they're depicted on there. And it doesn't explicitly say that those people were from Taseti or that they were Nubian or anything like that. Only thing you get is that they were African. But this is the thing. Kemet was an empire. They engaged enemies, domestic and foreign, African and non-African, within their several thousand-year history of civilization, just like any other civilization. I'm not one to romanticize Kemet like others do, in trying to paint it into some type of utopian kumbaya place. Everybody, I'm one with all pieces, my nature stuff. Oh, okay, and turn the other cheek and the brotherhood of man and all of that. Okay, that's not what it was, and it don't need to be in hell. We don't even need to be. That's the worst thing that we can be, and that's what we have been when it comes to everybody else but ourselves. You see? So, in Kemet, we see a grandiose display of Black excellence and Black power, you see, and dominance that we definitely need to pick up if we talking about not only surviving but thriving as we move into the next stage. So, they can miss me with integration and universal humanist talk. That's not what this is. That's not what this is. Okay, so that's the most I can say about the folk and painting Kemet as that super good guy, the super villain, or somewhere in between. It's all about what people's agendas are. At the end of the day, what it is that they're trying to push forward, and it makes no difference over here when you deal with the actual factual without trying to put an emotional curve or some type of romanticism or trying to and some people have in their of Kemet, romanticized Kemet and painted it as a utopia and a kumbaya place, and they never did any wrong. And I say, you here, they didn't have any jails. They didn't have any policemen, and they didn't have they didn't have all of these things. And I say, what are you actually studying to actually make those types of claims? Okay, what are you actually looking at to make those types of claims? You can't be engaging the actual corpus of the ancestors to make that claim. This is imagination. There's a lot of that going on.
Well, I know we gonna agreed upon a set time. I was hoping that we could.
Oh, let's go with it, because you know I know we haven't dealt with the most important um point that you wanted to get at was teaching it to the children and the family.
Definitely, definitely.
You
Can we
know,
deal with that and also get a little snapshot of the film tomorrow's presentation, and also if people wanted to attend that, do that, how does that work as well?
for sure, for sure. Okay, so um, when we're talking about teaching, okay, Nile Valley coaching, I guess this is the point of all the other points that were made. It is best first and foremost to learn the culture first and foremost, and the culture should also be studied and understood within the greater context of African culture and traditions. Okay, this is what we have done in and with Henensu. This is what my work reflects. Okay, you know, we have the rituals, we have the invocations, we have the the actual the what's called the Sibayit in Reki Iket, or the the instructional literature of our knowers of things, or what we call wise men or sages. You know, Patahotep, you know, Ani, Amenemopet, you know, Kagimini, you know, it goes on and on and on, right? That we can engage for moral and you know, civil, right, social etiquette and things of that nature. You know, we have, you know, the various ritual texts, medical texts, all of these things that we can actually engage direct from, you know, like this is what the ancestors actually wrote. You don't have to guesstimate. You don't have to make stuff up. You don't have to go outside of Kemet to try and put Kemet back together again. It's unnecessary. It's there. You know, study within the context of Kemet, within the parameters of Kemet first, and then, you know, within the greater context of African culture and traditions, and you'll see the relationship, what I call the continuity and kinship of African culture and traditions. Come in and learn the culture properly. Learn it the right way. Okay? Then you'll be able to teach it to your children the right way. And I say, you know, I'm one that encourages people to come into the tradition and you know Gereg Per, you know what I mean? You know, found or establish your house. You know, establish your house, which in our tradition means get married. Okay, you know, husband and wife come together and produce children. This is the African way. You know what I mean? And get married within the tradition and produce children within the tradition and raise the children up in the tradition. You know, I say our children, our daughters don't know anything else but Nile Valley culture and spiritual tradition. You know what I mean? You know, I say my oldest, you know, she's gonna be 7 in, you know, a couple of days. No Sefek. Gonna be 7 and, you know, 7 years old in a couple of days. And, you know, from the womb up until now, she doesn't know anything else. She's been going to her ancestor shrine since she got here. She's been making offerings to the ancestors, Oser Kintiya Mintiyu, to her Jertiyu, since she got here. She don't know nothing else. You know what I mean? She ain't, you know, she been to church one time, and that was for her great uncle's funeral. You know what I mean? That was it. You know, one time. All right? She don't know anything else. So I don't have to, pick out them women. We're teaching them the language, right? Madunate as classical African language, indeed a pan-African language. Okay? That many modern, quote unquote, modern African language actually descend from. They're learning that. Okay? So this is the approach, like, and have them present. You know, they're present for the rituals. They're present for the festivals. You know what I mean? They study, they study, of course, their yita, right? They study their father's work. They read the Sibayits, Patahotep, Ani. These are the things that we give to them to read. We don't try to teach them Kemet by telling them to study the Ching or the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali or the Vedas or the Zohar. Okay? You know what I mean? We give them the actual literature of the culture from a Nile Valley and greater African context. That's the only lens they're looking at it through, because that's what we gave to them. Right? So, you got to raise the children up. We got to raise them up. We have to get married. We got to be raised up in it, first and foremost. And we got to come in humble. We got to come in open. We got to come in not thinking that, the stuff that we got from everywhere else is the same. No, you got to come in open, come in and let the ancestors speak for themselves. And if you do that, what you teach to your children will be authentic, and the integrity of it will be maintained. I encourage folk to definitely check out our work, check out Nisu, check out Remembering Gosser. Check out the Nile Valley lecture series. You can find it on my YouTube channel, Aankhu Menu. And let that lead you into getting deeper into the tradition in a very serious way. Okay? Let that lead you into getting into the tradition in an authentic way. And then from there, join us on our annual pilgrimage to the Nile Valley, to Kemet, to the Sudan, right? To see the temples and to read the ritual text. That each and every temple in Kemet is an instruction manual written in stone, literally step by step, what you're supposed to say, do, offer, and why, and to who, what forces. Okay, in every single temple, that's all that's there, literally. Every single temple is uniform in that way, in that it's a step-by-step instruction manual in everything that you say, do, offer, why, and to who in every single room. Every single inch of the temple. That's what it is. You know what I mean? Of the temples. And then, from there, we actually go and stay with the elders. Okay? In Aswan, Nubia, okay, who are still practicing the tradition, the priests, right, the Juju men in the African Nubian village, right? We're going into the Sudan to connect with the Africans there to do the same. Bring your children on the pilgrimage as well. Bring them. Let them also sit at the feet of the elders. Let them also go through the temples as well. This is how we teach the children. This is how we teach the children, right? This is how we teach the family, and the family should practice the traditions together. I don't recommend. I know a few that have done it. I know a few that are trying to do it, trying to, you know, hold their thing together. You know what I'm saying? Like they got conscious or got into Kemet, you know, or after they had already been married for years, and their spouse, you know, is reluctant to actually join them on their journey, and it's caused some discord, you know, within their situation. You know, I recommend, if you are able to join together to practice the tradition together, okay, and you know, if you're really fortunate, you can, you know, get married within the tradition. You know what I mean? And you know, that's, I say, you know, that's the best thing, because at the end of the day, the tradition is family. That's what this tradition is. It's ancestral veneration. Okay, right? That's like, you know, the way that it's edified, or the high expression of it is ancestral veneration, when, you know, when we extend the family and the community beyond the mundane physical realm, so, you know, quote unquote. But it's family nonetheless. That's what it is at the core. You know what I mean? Even the Netaru are depicted as families and are considered ancestors as well. You know, if you look at some of the quote unquote kings list, you know, you get to a point where, you know, okay, you have Narmer, okay, or Mini, okay, who is you know, considered the first Nisubiti of Kemet, and that may change soon. You know, once this I say the door is blown off the hinges in terms of the lineage from the Sudan into Kemet. Okay, you know, that first dynasty might be reinterpreted soon as an intermediate period. You know what I mean? Or how you say, the continuation after an intermediate period, I should say. But you know, this is when you look at the kings list, even though, you know, Narmer is considered the first Nisu, there are lists that have Netaru, okay, in the lineage, which is a very African thing, right? That is a very, very African thing. So family is what this is about. If, you know, you can't practice this tradition, you know, on some individualism stuff. You can't practice this tradition by yourself. You can't, quote unquote, initiate yourself. You can't you know, be off to a corner talking about you a monk or you a nun or something like that. You a hermit and call yourself practicing African culture and spirituality, because, you know, African culture and spiritual traditions are fundamentally about family and community and nation building. Okay, nationhood, right? That's what it's about. So, you know, that's the way to approach it. That's the way to learn it. That's the way to teach it. So, you know, I encourage everybody to check us out. Check out the website, www.henensu.com. That's HENENSU.com. You know, check out my work, Remembering Gosser. You can find it on that website. You know, and also you can contact us, you know, on, you know, most of the social media platforms. You can get at me direct, Aankhu Benu, AANKHBENU. That's AANKHBENU. Okay. And you know, you can also email us at Henensu, HENENSU @gmail.com. Okay, for more information about, you know, about Henensu, about the work, about the traditions, and also about the pilgrimage to the Nile Valley that we do every year, the Kukim Kemet tour. Okay. Now, regarding the you know, the presentation tomorrow, right? Shout out to, you know, the African family here in the New Orleans area. You know, we're going to be doing a presentation called Decoding Black Panther, for the culture, subtitle for the culture or for the colonizer. Okay? For the culture or for the colonizer? That's the question. You know, this movie has created such a hysteria, and you know, they use Nile Valley culture for the movie. The movie opens up, you know, and if you ain't seen the movie, you know, close your ears real quick. Now I'm saying the movie opens up, you know, pretty much, you know, resembling greatly the you know, the founding or the union of the two lands, how Kemet itself was broken into several tribal kingdoms. You had 5 tribes with this Wakanda situation here. And you know, the great ancestor Sheikh Anta Diop also you know, proposed that Kemet originally began with 5 groups. Okay. The brothers that wrote this movie, this screenplay, are not ignorant to these things. I've heard the Star, like many of you have, reference Kemet explicitly, okay, in interviews. You know, how you say, you know, there's symbolism that is meant to speak to Pan-African nationalism, okay, thrown in the joint, on purpose, out of the admission of the writer and director himself. Okay. This is you know, something that was purposefully done. Okay, so it opens up with a deity, a Neterit, by the name of Bast or Bastet. Okay. From the tradition, okay, who is the chief deity or quote unquote god or goddess of the Wakandans. Okay, and you know, it's beautiful because throughout the film, right, there's so much symbolism from, you know, different parts of the continent as well, but Nile Valley culture, as far as Wakanda goes, is explicit. You know, it's there, right? If you know the culture, you know the tradition, you're definitely able to see it. And I ain't just talking about this here. You know, everybody going crazy with the memes and whatnot. You know, with the images of them doing the cross arms and whatnot, and putting Osir and all of the Subiti up on the joint. I'm not talking about that. Okay. You know, but when we look and examine, you know, this film critically, there's a lot in it that's explicitly speaks to Nile Valley culture, and they use Nile Valley culture. Okay, they invoked Nile Valley, a Nile Valley deity, a Kemetic deity. Okay, and you know, it was them, like this Kemetic deity and their ancestors, period. They didn't call on any foreign deities, any foreign prophets or ancestors, or none of that other stuff. Okay, so it's a lot in there to really get into, a lot of symbolism to decode and to break down and explain it to the folk. And but then, right, there's a lot in there that we gotta ask the question. Whoa, right? We see what's for the culture. Well, yo, was that for the colonizer? You know, some folk are, you know, how you say, is people are literally diametrically opposed in terms of their opinions about the movie. You got folks saying that, yo, it's for the culture. You got folks that say, nah, that's it for the colonizer, right? We're going to see, right? We're going to put it on the scales. We're going to put the heart of Marvel's Black Panther on the scales to see how it weighs. You know what I mean? And then from that, you know, maybe we'll reach a judgment. Maybe we'll let the folk decide. But, you know, that's going down tomorrow night. Shout out to the Kushite Cultural Center. Shout out to the Korean Kush, Tino Blaine King. You know, the Kushite Cultural Center and the Kushite family at Woodmere. Okay, that address is 2030 Woodmere Boulevard. Okay, 2030 Woodmere Boulevard in Harvey, Harvey, Louisiana. Okay, and you know, it's going to kick off. Doors open, I believe, at 7:30. Okay, 7 o'clock, 7:30. The doors open. 8 o'clock, somewhere up in there. We should be kicking this thing off. You know, got it going. You know, got it popping. So, if you're in the area, come through. You're definitely going to enjoy it. You know what I mean? I say, you know, I say it's you're gonna. I say some things you might have known, some things you might not have known, some things you might have seen, some things you might be like, whoa. And there's some things, you know, like I said, we're gonna get into it. I don't give it all up, but yeah, that's happening tomorrow night. And I definitely encourage the African family to come out and check it out.
Most deaf, you know, Harvey Louisiana getting all of this exclusiveness over here. You know what I'm saying? Got the Nisu coming out there, so. You know, I'll make sure we got a little exclusive ourselves over here on Knowledge Radio. You know what I'm saying? We get some of that background information before we go out there. You know, I know it's going to be excellent, fire presentation as always. And as the Nisu said, go back and check those archives. You always pick up something new in regards to, you know, the question of teaching modality, in regards to the question of dealing with and having patience with our family, our loved ones, in regards to, you know, their reacclimation process, this exposure process, what you say and what you do being congruent, and knowing that they're watching you, you know, they're watching you, you know, they've known you your whole life. So something you may have come in contact with as of recent, they might want to know if it's a fad, you know. There's a lot of things going on. You could leave the house one way and come back with some tinfoil on your head, talking about you preparing against zombie apocalypse or alien infiltration. You understand what I'm saying? There's a lot of things going on, and in a dominant society where everything is artificial and nothing, they create a space for nothing to be absolute. You could just be absolutely bugging. So they're looking to see if this is something that's going to be transformative. So, you know, one of the greatest things we could be at this particular time where there are no absolutes, you could draw a line in the sand and be absolutely transformative. And in that process, seek to be an example for others to emulate. Not so much as what you say, what you do. And some of the things that you say, you know, being that way, and you know, letting them know that this brings you closer to your family, not further away. You know what I mean? The closest you ever going to get to your family, the closest you're ever going to get to your family, you know, ancestrally, you know, now and in the future, through these traditions. So I think that's a beautiful, beautiful thing, and I really thank you, Nisu, for coming in and shedding light on what it is and what it ain't, as always.
And yo, I say one last point here, because something you mentioned, you know, is so critical. One of the things that we do, you know, we have our children doing, like, yo, you know, they gotta learn that lineage. Right. They gotta learn, they gotta know from that ancestral lineage, and when there's how you say, there's things that, like, you know, they have a very great relationship with their grandparents, and you know, they want to know something about their great grandparents. They need to get that from their grandparents while they're here.
That's right.
You know what I mean? They want to know something about their great uncles and great aunts. They need to get that from their grandparents while they're here.
That's right.
So, you know, and the great aunts and uncles and all of those things. So, you know, going through all of that, you know, it's important that you know, those things are part of it, because you're absolutely right. And I say this tradition, you know, and you know, African traditions in general are family oriented, and the key to healing the African family is in African traditions. So,
right.
You know what I mean? You know, that's that right there. So, you know, Dwayne tell you know, I appreciate the opportunity once again, my good brother Bond. You know, as always.
Love and honor. Any final remarks? Any closing remarks? Anything you wanted to reiterate before we get up out of here?
Well, you know, like I said, you know, definitely, I encourage, if you are really interested in studying Nile Valley culture. It's hot right now. It's the hottest thing out right now via this Black Panther movie. You know what I'm saying? You know, you got folk that want to get into the culture and the tradition just off the movie. Yo, who's this boss that they're talking about? Who is that? You know, what do you know, what do you invoke her for? Right? You know what I mean? So, you know, like these are the things, you know, calling on their ancestors, you know. Yo, these are the things that you know, that we should take advantage of. But if you want to learn it in a real way, you have to approach it in a way that is authentic and integrity. And, you know, that's what we're doing, you know, here in the Nisu. I encourage you to check us out, check out my work. And, you know what I mean? You know, I'm very approachable. How you say, you know, you can hit me on any platform and contact me direct. You know what I mean? I talk to folk all the time from all over the place, you know, that are interested in learning more about the tradition, you know, etc. so on. So, you know, this is, you know, it's not a problem, you know, holler at us, because once again, you know, that direct engagement, you know, is the African way, not the vicarious approach, or approaching solely through your books, or approaching solely through you know, your own personal imagination and speculation and whatnot, and what the spirit told you and all of that. Okay, you know what I mean? You know, let's bring this thing together like Africans supposed to do. So you know, once again, you know, contact me. You know, check out the website henensu.com. Contact us, henensu@gmail.com. Check out the work Remembering Gosser. Join us on our annual pilgrimage to the Nile Valley, Kemet, and the Sudan. And you know, as we explore, you know, the continuity and kinship of African traditions as is manifest in Kemet and the Sudan, Kemet and the Sudan as the Pan-African parent of them all. That's right. I said it.
Who? All right, well, yeah, we're about to get up out of here. So definitely, again, thank you, Nisu, for coming through and extending your time for us past the agreed upon time, to ensure that the points were driven home to the family. Y'all make sure y'all spread this out so you can see this in its most authentic and proper manner. One opportunity to hear a teaching style based on refinement, based on experience, based on travel, based on ancestral guidance, divination, and all of these things that are in line and in sync with proper African culture and tradition. This is all of the magic of Nile Valley culture and civilization. So with that, say Otepu, Uncle Jastaneb, Senepti, and Holla Black.
Dwanate, Senepti.